The 1st Cavalry Division is a combined arms division and is one of the most decorated combat divisions of the United States Army, as well as the other 4 branches of the U.S. military. It is based at Fort Hood, Texas. It was formed in 1921 and served during World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Persian Gulf War, with the Stabilization Force in Bosnia-Herzegovina, in the Iraq War, and in the war in Afghanistan. As of 2013, the 1st Cavalry Division is subordinate to 3rd Corps and is commanded by Major General John C. Thompson III. History. The history of the 1st Cavalry Division began in 1921 after the Army established a permanent cavalry division table of organization and equipment on the 4th of April 1921. It authorized a square division organization of 7,463 officers and men, organized as follows: Headquarters Element, 2 Cavalry Brigades, Field Artillery Battalion, Engineer Battalion, Division Quartermaster Trains Command, Special Troops Command, Ambulance Company. On the 20th of August 1921, the War Department Adjutant General constituted the 1st and 2nd Cavalry Divisions to meet partial mobilization requirements, and authorized the establishment of the 1st Cavalry Division under the new TO and AMP-E on the 31st of August 1921. Since 1st Cavalry Division was to assemble from existing units, it was able to go active in September 1921, even though the subordinate units did not arrive completely until as late as 1922. 1st Cavalry Division was assigned to the 8th Corps area, with its division headquarters and 2D Brigade located at Fort Bliss, Texas, and the 1st Brigade at Douglas, Arizona. The headquarters facilities used by 1st Cavalry Division were those previously vacated by 8th United States Brigade when it was commanded by M.G. John J. Pershing in 1916, and the wartime 15th Cavalry Division, which had existed at Fort Bliss between the 10th of December 1917 and the 12th of May 1918. The 1st Cavalry Divisions assembled at Douglas, Arizona. The 1st, 7th, and 8th Cavalry Regiments had previously been assigned to the wartime 15th Cavalry Division until they were returned to the 8th Corps Area Troop List on the 12th of May 1918. 1st Cavalry Regiment remained assigned until it was transferred to 1st Cavalry Division on the 20th of August 1921. The 7th, 8th, and 10th Cavalry Regiments were transferred on the 13th of September 1921, although the assignment of the 10th Cavalry Regiment to the 1st Cavalry Division was controversial because the transfer violated the Jim Crow laws. This controversy continued until the 18th of December 1922, when the 5th Cavalry Regiment, then on the 8th Corps Area Troop List, swapped places with the 10th Cavalry Regiment. In 1923, the 1st Cavalry Division held division maneuvers for the first time, intending to hold them annually thereafter. However, financial constraints made that impossible. Only in 1927, through the generosity of a few ranchers who provided free land, was the division able to conduct such exercises again. In 1928, Major General Herbert B. Crosby, Chief of Cavalry, faced with personnel cuts, reorganized the cavalry regiments, which in turn reduced the size of the 1st Cavalry Division. Crosby's goal was to decrease overhead while maintaining or increasing firepower in the regiment. After the reorganization, each cavalry regiment consisted of a headquarters and headquarters troop, a machine gun troop, a medical and chaplain element, and 2 squadrons, each with a headquarters element and 2 line troops. The cavalry brigade's machine gun squadrons were activated, while the responsibility for training and employment deploying machine guns fell to the regimental commanders, as in the infantry. About the same time that Crosby cut the cavalry regiment, the Army staff, seeking to increase the usefulness of the wartime cavalry division, published new tables of organization for an even larger unit. The new structure increased the size of the signal troop, expanded the medical unit to a squadron, and endorsing Crosby's movement of the machine gun units from the brigades to the regiments, a divisional aviation section, an armored car squadron, and tank company were added. The field artillery battalion was expanded to a regiment, and divisional strength rose to 9,595. Prelude to World War II. With the arrival of the 1930s, serious work started on the testing and refining of new equipment and II and AMPs for a mechanized and motorized army. To facilitate this, 1st Cavalry Division traded 1st Cavalry Regiment for 12th Cavalry Regiment on 3 January 1933. Taking into account recommendations from the 8th Corps area, the Army War College, and the Command and General Staff School, the board developed a new smaller triangular cavalry division, which the 1st Cavalry Division evaluated during maneuvers at Torrevale, Texas, in 1938. Like the 1937 Infantry Division test, the maneuvers concentrated on the divisional cavalry regiments around which all other units were to be organized. Following the test, a board of 1st Cavalry Division officers, headed by Brigadier General Kenyon A. Joyce, rejected the 3-regiment division and recommended retention of the 2-brigade organization. The latter configuration allowed the division to deploy easily in 2 columns, which was accepted standard cavalry tactics. However, the board advocated reorganizing the cavalry regiment along triangular lines, which would give it a headquarters and headquarters troop, a machine gun squadron with special weapons and machine gun troops, and 3 rifle squadrons, each with 1 machine gun and 3 rifle troops. No significant change was made in the field artillery, but the test showed that the engineer element should remain a squadron to provide the divisional elements greater mobility on the battlefield, and that the special troops idea should be extended to include the division headquarters, signal and ordnance troops, quartermaster, medical, engineer, reconnaissance, and observation squadrons, and a chemical warfare detachment. 1 headquarters would assume responsibility for the administration and disciplinary control for these forces. Although the study did not lead to a general reorganization of the cavalry division, the wartime cavalry regiment was restructured, effective 1 December 1938, to consist of a headquarters and headquarters troop, machine gun and special weapons troops, and 3 squadrons of 3 rifle troops each. The special troops remained as structured in 1928, and no observation squadron or chemical detachment found a place in the division. With the paper changes in the cavalry divisions and other minor adjustments, the strength of the wartime division rose to 10,680. In order to prepare for war service, 1st Cavalry Division participated in the following maneuvers: Torrevale TX maneuvers 7 October through 30 October 1939. Craven's Pitkin, Louisiana maneuvers 13th August through 24th August 1940. 2nd 3rd Army Louisiana maneuvers 10th August through 4th October 1941. 8th Corps Louisiana maneuvers near Mansfield, LA 27th July 1942 to 21 September 1942. World War II. With the attack on Pearl Harbor on 7 December 1941, the Great Laboratory Phase for Developing and Testing Organizations, about which Marshall wrote in the summer of 1941, closed, but the War Department still had not developed ideal infantry, cavalry, armored, and motorized divisions. In 1942 it again revised the divisions based on experiences gained during the Great GHQ maneuvers of the previous year. As in the past, the reorganizations ranged from minor adjustments to wholesale changes. 1st Cavalry Division retained its square configuration after the 1941 maneuvers, but with modifications. The division lost its anti-tank troop, the brigades the weapons troops, and the regiments the machine gun and special weapons troops. These changes brought no decrease in divisional firepower, but placed most weapons within the cavalry troops. The number of 50 caliber machine guns was increased almost threefold. In the reconnaissance squadron, the motorcycle and armored car troops were eliminated, leaving the squadron with 1 support troop and 3 reconnaissance troops equipped with light tanks. These changes increased the division from 11,676 to 12,112 officers and enlisted men. The last of the 1st Cavalry Division's mounted units permanently retired their horses and converted to infantry formations on 28 February 1943. However, a mounted special ceremonial unit known as the Horse Platoon, later, the Horse Cavalry Detachment, was established within the division in January 1972. Its ongoing purpose is to represent the traditions and heritage of the American Horse Cavalry at military ceremonies and public events. 1st Cavalry Division reported for its sport call at Camp Stoneman, ca. as follows. The 1st Cavalry Division arrived in Australia as shown above, continued its training at Strathpine, Queensland, until the 26th of July, then moved to New Guinea to stage for the Admiralty's Campaign 22 to 27 February 1944. The division experienced its first combat in the Admiralty Islands, units landing at Los Negros on 29 February 1944. Momote airstrip was secured against great odds. Attacks by Japanese were thrown back, and the enemy force surrounded by the end of March. Nearby islands were taken in April and May. The division next took part in the invasion of Leyte, the 20th of October 1944, captured Tacloban and the adjacent airstrip, advanced along the north coast, and secured Leyte Valley, elements landing on and securing Sama Island. Moving down Ormoc Valley and across the Ormoc Plain, the division reached the west coast of Leyte the 1st of January 1945. The division then invaded Luzon, landing in the Lingayen Gulf area the 27th of January 1945, and fought its way as a flying column to Manila by the 3rd of February 1945. More than 3,000 civilian prisoners at the University of Santo Tomas, including more than 60 U.S. Army nurses, were liberated, and the 1st Cavalry then advanced east of Manila by the middle of February before the city was cleared. On the 20th of February the division was assigned the mission of seizing and securing crossings over the Marikina River and securing the Tagaytay-Antipolo line. After being relieved the 12th of March in the Antipolo area, elements pushed south into Batangas and provinces of Bicol region and aiding Filipino forces under the Philippine Commonwealth Army and Philippine Constabulary together with the recognized guerrillas. They mopped up remaining pockets of resistance in these areas in small unit actions. Resistance was officially declared at an end 1 July 1945. The division left Luz on 25 August 1945 for occupation duty in Japan, arriving in Yokohama 2 September 1945 and entering Tokyo 8 September. The first United States division to enter the Japanese capital, 101 Unit, was set up in May 1945 to search for the missing soldiers in the Second World War II. The detachment consisted of 17 people, 3 of them officers, Captain McColeman, Lieutenant Foley and Sergeant Ryan. The operation was successful, although it lasted 3 years. Occupation duty in Japan followed for the next 5 years. World War II casualties: 734 killed in action, 3,311 wounded in action, 236 died of wounds. Korean War. In the summer of 1950, North Korea attacked South Korea, and the 1st Cavalry Division was rushed to Korea to help shore up the Pusan perimeter. After the 10th Corps attacked in turn, a breakout operation was launched at the Pusan perimeter. The 1st Cavalry Division remained in the line until it was relieved by the 45th Infantry Division from the United States Army National Guard in January 1952. Following the relief, the division returned to Japan. The division returned to Korea in 1957, where it remained until 1965. During the Korean War, there were disparaging rumors about the 1st Cavalry Division's fighting abilities, including a folk song of the time called the Bug-Out Ballad. The series of engagements that are rumored to have given rise to the song were due to the myth that the division lost its unit colors. Other Army and Marine units disparagingly described the division shelter insignia as representing the horse they never rode, the river they never crossed, and the yellow speaks for itself. Another version goes, the shield they never carried, the horse they never rode, the bridge they never crossed, the line they never held, and the yellow is the reason why. The incident that apparently gave rise to this rumor appears to be the Battle of Aung San, which took place on 1–2 November 1950 at Aung San, Korea. In that battle, the 8th Cavalry Regiment, a component of the 1st Cavalry Division, was pushed back from positions in and around the town of Aung San by superior Chinese forces. The regiment was severely battered, experienced heavy casualties, and lost a considerable amount of equipment. This was one of the first major Chinese operations in the Korean War and, like the Changjin Reservoir Battle of the same period, it took the United Nations Command by surprise. On 28 October 1950, Gen. Walker relieved the 1st Cavalry Division of its security mission in Pyongyang. The division's new orders were to pass through the ROK 1st Division's lines at Aung San and attack toward the Yalu River. Leading the way on the 29th, the 8th Cavalry Regiment departed Pyongyang and reached Yongsan-dong that evening. The 5th Cavalry Regiment arrived the next morning, with the mission to protect the 8th Cavalry Regiment's rear. With the arrival of the 8th Cavalry Regiment at Aung San on the 31st, the ROK 1st Division redeployed to positions northeast, east, and southeast of Aung San. The 8th Cavalry took up positions northwest and south of the town. Meanwhile, the ROK 15th Regiment was desperately trying to hold its position east of the 8th Cavalry across the Saman River. During the afternoon of the 1st of November, the Chinese forces attack north of Aung San gained strength against the ROK 15th 15th Regiment and gradually extended to the right flank of the 1st Battalion, 8th Cavalry. At nightfall, the 1st Battalion controlled the northern approaches to the Saman River, except for portions of the ROK 15th Regiment's zone on the east side. The battalion's position on the left was weak. There were not enough soldiers to extend the defensive line to the main ridge leading into Aung San. This left a gap between the 1st and 2D battalions. East of the Saman, the ROK 15th Regiment was under heavy attack, and shortly after midnight it no longer existed as a combat force. The ordeal of the 8th Cavalry now began. At 19:30 hours on the 1st of November, the Chinese attacked the 1st Battalion, 8th Cavalry, all along its line. At 2100 hours, Chinese troops found the weak link in the ridgeline and began moving through it and down the ridge behind the 2D Battalion, penetrating its right flank and encircling its left. Now both the 1st and 2D battalions were engaged by the enemy on several sides. Around midnight, the 8th Cavalry received orders to withdraw southward to Ipsok. As of 1:30 hours on the 2nd of November, no enemy activity was reported in the 3D Battalion sector south of Aung San. But as the 8th Cavalry withdrew, all three battalions became trapped by Chinese roadblocks south of Aung San during the early morning hours. Members of the 1st Battalion who were able to escape reached the Ipsok area. A head count showed the battalion had lost about 15 officers and 250 enlisted men. Members of the 2nd Battalion, for the most part, scattered into the hills. Many of them reached the rock lines near Ipsok. Others met up with the 3rd Battalion, the hardest hit. Around 3 o'clock hours, the Chinese launched a surprise attack on the battalion command post. Hand-to-hand fighting ensued for about half an hour before the enemy was driven from the area. The disorganized members of the 3rd Battalion formed a core of resistance around 3 tanks on the valley floor and held off the enemy until daylight. By that time, only 6 officers and 200 enlisted men were still able to function. More than 170 were wounded, and the number dead or missing were uncounted. Attempts by the 5th Cavalry to relieve the beleaguered battalion were unsuccessful, and the 3rd Battalion, 8th Cavalry, soon ceased to exist as an organized force. The enemy force that brought tragedy to the 8th Cavalry at Aung San was the Chinese 116th Division. Elements of the 116th S 347th Regiment were responsible for the roadblock south of Aung San. Also engaged in the Aung San action was the Chinese 115th Division. Korean War Casualties: 3,811 killed in action, 12,086 wounded in action. Korean War Honors: 8 Medal of Honor recipients. 5th Cavalry Regiment: Lloyd L. Burke, Samuel S. Corson, and Robert M. McGovern. 8th Cavalry Regiment: T.B. Reuben, James L. Stone, Robert H. Young. 16th Reconnaissance Company, Gordon M. Craig. Vietnam 1st Cavalry Division 1965–1972. On the 29th of June 1965, the colors of the 1st Cavalry Division, at that time assigned to Korea, were transferred to Fort Benning, taking over the reflagged units of the 11th Airborne Division and 2nd Infantry Division, while the flag of the 2nd Infantry Division was moved to Korea, taking over the reflagged 1st Cav units. The 1st Cavalry Division next fought in the Vietnam War. No longer a conventional infantry unit, the division had become an air assault division as the 1st Cavalry Division, commonly referred to as the 1st Air Cavalry Division. The use of helicopters on such large scale as troop carriers, cargo lift ships, medevacs, and as aerial rocket artillery, was never before implemented, but by doing doing so it freed the infantry from the tyranny of terrain to attack the enemy at the time and place of its choosing. In 1965, colors and subordinate unit designations of the 1st Cavalry Division were transferred from Korea to Fort Benning, Georgia, where they were used to reflag the existing 11th Air Assault Division into 1st Cavalry Division. Concurrently, the colors and subordinate unit designations were transferred to Korea to reflag what had been the 1st Cavalry Division into the 2nd Infantry Division. Shortly thereafter, the 1st Cavalry Division began deploying to Camp Radcliffe and KHE, Vietnam, in the Central Highlands and was equipped with the new M16 rifle, the UH-1 troop carrier helicopter, UH-1C gunships, the CH-47 Chinook cargo helicopter, and the massive CH-54 Skycrane cargo helicopter. All aircraft carried insignia to indicate the battalion and company. The division's first major operation was to help relieve the siege of Plai Me near Pleiku and the pursuit of the withdrawing North Vietnamese army, which culminated in the Battle of Iowa Drang, described in the book We Were Soldiers Once and Young, was also the basis of the film We Were Soldiers. Because of that battle, the division earned the Presidential Unit Citation, the first unit to receive such in the war. In 1966, the division attempted to rout the Communist Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese Army out of Binh Dinh Province with Operation Masha, Operation Crazy Horse and Operation Thayer. 1967 was then spent conducting Operation Pershing, a large-scale search-and-destroy operation of Communist base areas in 2nd Corps in which 5,400 Communist soldiers were killed and 2,000 captured. In Operation Jeb Stuart, January 1968, the division moved north to Camp Evans, north of Hugh, and on to Landing Zone Sharon and Landing Zone Betty, south of Guam Tri-City, all in the 1st Corps Tactical Zone. In the early morning hours of the 31st of January 1968, the largest battle of the Vietnam War, the Tet Offensive, was launched by 84,000 Communist soldiers across South Vietnam. In the 1st Cavalry Division's area of operation, the North Vietnamese Army and Viet Cong forces seized most of the city of Hue, as the 3rd Brigade, 1st Cavalry Division, fought to cut off Communist reinforcements pouring into Hue. At Guam Tri-City, 5 battalions, most from the 324th NVA Division, attacked the city and LZ Betty. To stop Allied troops from intervening, 3 other Communist infantry battalions deployed as blocking forces, all supported by a 122 mm rocket battalion and 2 heavy weapons companies armed with 82 mm mortars and 75 mm recoilless rifles. After intense fighting, 900 NVA and Viet Cong soldiers were killed in and around Guam Tri-City and LZ Betty. However, across South Vietnam, 1,000 Americans, 2,100 ARVNs, 14,000 civilians, and 32,000 NVA and Viet Cong were killed. In March 1968, the 1st Cavalry Division shifted forces to LZ Stud, the staging area for Operation Pegasus, to break the siege of the Marine Combat Base at KHE San, the 2nd largest battle of the war. All 3 brigades participated in this airmobile operation, along with a Marine armor thrust. U.S. Air Force B-52s alone dropped more than 75,000 tons of bombs on North Vietnamese soldiers from the 304th and 325th Divisions encroaching the combat base in trenches. As these 2 elite enemy divisions, with history at Dien Bien Phu and the Iowa Drang Valley, depleted, the 1st Cavalry Division leapfrogged west. clearing Route 9 until at 0 to 800 hours. The 8th of April, the 2nd Battalion, 7th Cavalry, linked up with Marines at the combat base, ending the 77-day siege. On the 19th of April 1968, as the 2nd Brigade continued pushing west to the Laotian border, the 1st and 3rd Brigades swung southwest and air assaulted A Shau Valley, commencing Operation Delaware. The North Vietnamese Army was a well-trained, equipped, and led force. They turned A Shau into a formidable sanctuary, complete with PT-76 tanks, powerful crew-served 37mm anti-aircraft cannons, some radar-controlled, twin-barreled 23mm cannons, and scores of 12.7mm heavy machine guns. A long-range penetration operation was launched by members of the 1st Cavalry Division's long-range reconnaissance patrol against the North Vietnamese Army when they seized Signal Hill, the name attributed to the peak of Dong Ri Lao Mountain, a densely forested 4,879 feet mountain midway in the valley. So the 1st and 3rd Brigades, slugging it out hidden deep behind the mountains, could communicate with Camp Evans near the coast or with approaching aircraft. Despite hundreds of B-52 and jet air strikes in Operation Delaware, the NVA and Communist forces shot down a C-130, a CH-54, 2 Chinooks, and nearly 24 UH-1 Hueys. Many more were lost in accidents or damaged by ground fire. The division also suffered more than 100 dead and 530 wounded in the operation. Bad weather aggravated the loss by causing delays in troop movements, allowing a substantial number of NVA to escape to safety in Laos. Still, the NVA lost more than 800 dead, a tank, 70 trucks, 2 bulldozers, 30 flamethrowers, thousands of rifles and machine guns, and dozens of anti-aircraft cannons. They also lost tons of ammunition, explosives, medical supplies and foodstuffs. In mid-May 1968, Operation Delaware ceased. However, the division continued tactical operations in 1st Corps as well as local pacification and MATCAP. In the autumn of 1968, the 1st Cavalry Division relocated south to Phoc Vinh Base Camp northeast of Saigon. In May 1970, the 1st Cavalry Division participated in the Cambodian incursion, withdrawing from Cambodia on the 29th of June. Thereafter, the division took a defensive posture while U.S. troops' withdrawals continued from Vietnam. On the 29th of April 1971, the bulk of the division was withdrawn to Fort Hood, Texas, but its 3rd Brigade remained as one of the final 2 major U.S. ground combat units in Vietnam, departing the 29th of June 1972. However, its 1st Battalion, 7th Cavalry Task Force Gary O remained another 2 months. In the Vietnam War, the 1st Cavalry Division suffered more casualties than any other Army division. 5,444 men killed in action and 26,592 wounded in action. However, the 1st Marine Division suffered 7,012 men killed in action and the 3rd Marine Division suffered 6,869 men killed in action. Air Cavalry Regiments D Troop, 1st Squadron, 1st Cavalry D Troop, 2nd Squadron, 1st Cavalry D Troop, 1st Squadron, 4th Cavalry D Troop, 3rd Squadron, 4th Cavalry F Troop, 4th Cavalry D Troop, 3rd Squadron, 5th Cavalry F Troop, 8th Cavalry F Troop, 9th Cavalry, also known as H Troop, 16th Cavalry D Troop, 1st Squadron, 10th Cavalry H Troop, 10th Cavalry Air Cavalry Troop, 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment C Troop, 16th Cavalry D Troop, 17th Cavalry H Troop, 17th Cavalry